Sudha, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, we can start the session now, sir.
Yes. Yeah. Good afternoon to all of you. It's good to have you in for this live session. I thought in the beginning we will spend a few minutes in trying to kind of summarize the course as you have already completed. You're familiar with all the details, you have done the assignments. The idea is, the purpose of the course is to understand the importance of outcome-based education, how it can be integrated into our day-to-day teaching and learning activities. Broadly, that is the one. What happened, we have always been focusing on teaching. How do you teach better? How do you prepare your notes better? How do you conduct discussion in the classroom better? Or How do you prepare your slides? How to use the technology for teaching? But the purpose of teaching is to facilitate the students to learn. For example, I might be doing a great job in the classroom, but if the learning has not taken place, then what is the purpose? The learning has to take place within the student. And once again, students are individuals and no two people are alike. So even one student may appreciate it, may understand and learn better. Other student may not be able to do that because his abilities, his learning requirements differ from the other student. So the challenge is to focus on learning by the students, not on the teaching. It is not that teaching is not important. Teaching will have to adjust itself to ensure that better learning is taking place. And that is where the outcome-based education comes into picture, where the focus is on learning, or what we call student centricity, if you want to use a high-sounding word. Because all along it has been teacher-centered. How should the teacher make a better presentation, better transfer information to the students? So in that process, you start with not what the teacher should teach, but you start
Sir,
with, yes, please.
your voice is very low. Can you enhance something?
I'm very close to the speaker. Just a minute.
Yeah.
Where do I adjust the?
Yeah, little bit okay now.
It's okay.
Continue. Yeah, now it is bit okay. Yeah, continue, sir.
Okay. So that is where the outcome-based education has come into use by, at least people are using the word, not that people were not concerned about students learning the learner centricity and all that, but it was not formalized. In the case of in our country, it was formalized in almost 2015-16 kind of thing. The National Board of Accreditation has started using the term outcome-based education, and so the other agencies also have started using. Both the AICTE, University Grants Commission, NAC, they've all started using that. At least we are all on the same page, you can say. So an outcome is nothing but what the student should be able to do at the end of some kind of a learning experience. So there is nothing, it is not anything big. You just are trying to say what the student should be able to do, let's say at the end of one course outcome. If he has taken about 5 sessions to present or to engage with or to trying to attain one course outcome, what exactly a student should be able to do at the end of that. So that is broadly the issue of outcome-based education. Towards this, one thing that we need to realize that any course that we deal with as a teacher doesn't stand in isolation. It is an element of a program that lasts over 4 years, and the 4 years is divided into 8 semesters. Each semester has a certain number of courses, and we are dealing with one of those courses. And the curriculum design is supposed to have taken place in such a way, the elements of the program, in terms of the courses, projects, they're all interlinked and they're somewhat dependent on one another. So if you deal with a course as an element of a program, then one cannot take the position that this course is mine and I'm going to deal with the way I consider best. It cannot be treated in isolation. So the whole program will have to be looked together. And that is where it comes that a program will have to have some goals. Let's say you're offering something like a BTech program in civil engineering. So as a graduate of civil engineering graduates, he must have some characteristics. After all, graduate of any program should have some abilities and characteristics. And here you can divide them into two categories. One is any graduate of any engineering program should have some common characteristics. And if he is a civil engineering graduate, he must have something specific, some characteristics which are particular to civil engineering. And that is where we come with program outcomes. Program outcomes, graduate of any engineering program should have certain characteristics. We call them as program outcomes. And a graduate of a particular program like civil engineering, what exactly are his characteristics? What kinds of things should be able to do? We'll call them as program specific outcomes. Then broadly, that is where you start. That means these POs and PSOs will have to be attained by the time at the time of graduation by all students. Of course, every student will not attain at the same level, but they have to be attained. Now, if you look at our program, other than the projects, maybe these days people have started using many projects. So other than a few projects and also some internship, most of the things are done through courses. It is through the courses we are trying to attain the POs and PSOs. But how do you characterize a course? Course is also presented as, instead of a list of topics, we present it as a set of outcomes, course outcomes. And these course outcomes, they are presenting exactly what the student should be able to do. And one needs to write as clearly as possible so that you are effectively communicating to the students what exactly they should prepare themselves to get the ability to do those things. That is where the COs come. And to write all this, to look at all these things, we need a kind of a common language. Instead of each person trying to do on their own, the CO should be written, let's say, as per well-defined structure. And that is where we, as you have gone through, a lot of time we have spent on what we call the taxonomy of learning. What do you mean by learning? Can I classify my learning process? Can I, after all, we are transferring some knowledge. The students are gaining some knowledge. Is all types of knowledge are the same? Is there some difference between one type of knowledge and the other? That we have seen. The cognitive domain, as we looked at under the revised Bloom's taxonomy, that it is two-dimensional. And we spent a lot of time in understanding the 6 cognitive processes and 4 knowledge categories, general categories. And we also looked at 4 knowledge categories specific to engineering. And now we got what we call revised Bloom-Vincenti taxonomy for engineering. Okay? And we also presented how the structure of a course outcome statement. It should have 4 elements. We talked about the action and the knowledge, and then we talked about the conditions under which the cognitive activity has to be performed, and then the criteria which the activity will have to satisfy. Out of this, the first 2 are compulsory, the other 2 are optional. So we have gone through how to write outcomes for a course. And having done that, we also have to demonstrate at the end of the course to what extent these outcomes have been attained, for which we presented one method of computing. The way to compute the attainment of outcomes is not unique. Okay? There can be multiple ways of doing it, but we presented what we considered as a representative and a justifiable. Okay? So that is what broadly the course is all about. I hope you have caught on both the essence of this course, as well as all the detailed elements which you need to be familiar with to actually determine the attainment of outcomes. Because all of you as teachers will have to implement or use this in your respective institutions. At least the OBE framework will have to be used, because each one of your institution may follow slightly different method of computing the attainment. Okay, so that's what it is. Now we'll take some questions. And the first question is, how can we improve our teaching as per practical need? I'm not clear practical need, whether the concerned person has idea of laboratory or just in practice. Can someone clarify? Okay, if the concerned person is not there, that is in practice, how do you improve our teaching? See, as we have not gone through the course design, let us look at what are broadly what we consider 4 elements of teaching. One is teacher must have the competency in the subject. Okay, he must know. He is very clear about all the things that he is expecting to teach. We will take that for granted. All teachers know what exactly they're talking about, what should be taught. Then the second part is that there is some kind of a what do you call course management, which there is no issue on that, because every department has its own way of managing the course. That means there is a schedule, there is a timetable, then there is you conduct your class tests, assignments as per some kind of schedule, and then when do you conduct the final exam? All that, the course management part is normally taken care at the department level, under, of course, the guidelines of the institute. Then the third one is, I just go back, please. The third one is, how does the teacher communicate with the students? What is the type of interaction they have? And this is the most important part of really getting the attention of the students. For example, if somehow the students do not feel comfortable or happy with the way the things are happening in the class, the way the teacher communicates, the way the physical environment, and for example, the way the teacher is communicating, the way the teacher is really concerned about the students, unless this is kind of addressed in a very considered way, in a sympathetic way by the teacher, the learning doesn't effectively take place. Okay? The teacher-student interaction is very, very critical for the students to learn. What happens, student doesn't do anything. He'll just mentally drop out. If he doesn't like what is happening, the way the teacher is conducting himself or herself, he will merely mentally drop out. That means he is not paying attention to what is being taught. So obviously, good learning doesn't take place. So in my opinion, the teacher's primary duty is to ensure that the teacher has the attention of the students while the teaching is taking place. Then the fourth element is what we call as course design. How did you systematically design your course? Though we have not addressed the dimension of course design, but one of the major things is, how do you write your course outcomes? That we have dealt with. So if you are able to write your course outcomes and communicate to the students, the better learning takes place. That's what broadly, if you say, and in addition to this, there are any number of the way you teach or the way you instruct, as we call it, how the instruction takes place in the classroom. There are endless methods, endless minor variations about each one, depending on the subject, depending on the environment, depending on the students. You have any number of things you have to explore and find what is best for your combination of things. Of course, I can elaborate further, but that it will become a different course itself. Another, next one, please. Can we use the word achievable instead of observable? Because observable may not be achievable, and moreover, it is it is an internal change. I think you need to really, first of all, observable is not an internal change. The internal change has to get reflected in some way. Either the student articulates or writes something on a piece of paper or solves a problem. So what the student does is observable by the teacher. Okay. So observable and measurable, that is what we are talking about. That means if you ask the student to solve a problem, then what happens, he may know how to solve the problem, but that is not sufficient. You want the student to actually solve the problem on a piece of paper. Then what is written on the piece of paper is observable by the teacher. And then he can decide, he can measure to what extent it has been learned. Like, are the calculations right? Are the assumptions right? Then he is able to measure and possibly assign some kind of a grade or a mark to that. So observability is not an internal change. And wait, please. The observable may not be achievable. It doesn't make sense because achievable or not achievable gets reflected in the way you have written your course out. Sometimes we may be over ambitious and make the scope of the course outcome very large. So it may not be achievable. Achievability depends on the scope of the CBO rather than observable. So these two terms, achievable and observable, are two completely different entities. Okay, one is not in place of the other. If you still have any issue, please you can raise your hand and ask a question. Okay, if we use the word understand while writing a CBO, then will it be considered as teacher-centered? Because the student may or may not understand, and moreover, understand cannot be measurable, unlike calculate, determine, solve. If we use the word understand for writing CBO, then it won't map with any of the PO because the first PO starts itself with solving complex engineering problems, and the complexity of POs will increase from PO1 to PO5. Okay, there are many things here. Yes, this is an important one. In the revised Bloom's taxonomy that we presented, the word understand was brought in because as teachers, we have been constantly using the word. You address the students and say, have you understood this? We use that word practically every alternate sentence. So that's why the understand is brought back into the taxonomy, but with a caveat. The thing is, understand represents together 7 sub-processes. If you look at our slides, you will find that there are 7 sub-processes. That means it may reflect what do you call the highest level is explain, the infer, compare, like that we have 7 sub-processes. So what may happen is, but if you say compare 2 things, that is observable, that is measurable, right? No issue on that. If it is, you're asked to give an example, exemplify is observable. Infer is observable. So all the sub-processor activities are observable. But what happens if I merely say only one sub-process I pick, infer, then the scope of this CBO can become very small. Let us assume out of the 7, I'm planning to use 3 sub-processes. Then what do I have to do? I have to write 3 action verbs. Action verb related to each sub-process I need to use. So, because of our initial thing that we should only be using most of the time one single action verb. This is a mechanism used to address that issue, saying that if 3 sub-processes of understand are to be used, then instead of using 3 separately, I use the umbrella word understand. That's all. And that is the reason why we use the word understand as a possible action verb. Okay. So, in case of all others, we are being, actually, if you look at calculate, determine, solve, they all mean the same. But we use that as appropriate depending on the situation. Okay? So, understand is measurable in terms of the sub-processes. Because we are likely to use more than one sub-process in writing a CO, then we are using the word understand. Okay? And here, because the cognitive processes are arranged hierarchically, a higher apply or analyze type of cognitive process will imply all the lower cognitive processes. So if I say apply something or calculate something, understand is implied. Okay? So the same thing applies at the PO level as well. In fact, POs are not strictly written the way the wording that goes. They were not strictly written in the framework of revised Bloom's taxonomy. Reasonably close, but they didn't strictly follow the structure of writing an outcome. Okay? I hope that answers your question. At the UG level, the statement appears to be PO than PSO. If we consider less complexity in writing the PEOs, then above PSO could be considered PSO. However, the statement can be the PSO of premier institute like IIS, IITs, and if it is written for other institutes, it may look like a vague statement. I'm not very clear. If the concerned person is present, he can, or he or she can elaborate that. Or otherwise, I'll try to answer the way to the extent that I understood. See, PEO is a statement that kind of that tells what the graduate, the kind of activity the graduate is involved in 4 to 5 years after graduation, not at the time of graduation. So to that extent, PSO is at the time of graduation. PEO is 4 to 5 years after graduation. So we are now talking about the kind of activities an engineer is involved 4 to 5 years after graduation in an organization. Whereas PSO is strictly what he is able to do at the time of graduation. That first, if there is if they appear to be similar, then they need to be suitably modified. Okay. Less complexity in the PEO than the above PSO could be considered. I'm not very clear about that part of the sentence. The PSOs of programs in different institutions can be different to that extent, because the curriculum will be different. They are not identical. Because if you look at an institution like IIT, in fact, the colleges should not be imitating IITs in terms of the curriculum, because you cannot duplicate all the resources that IITs have. There is no way. First of all, they select students at national level after very heavy filtering. Very elaborate selection process exists. That means the kind of students they get are very different. The kind of faculty they have are very different. The kind of laboratory and other resources they have are different. How can I have the same kind of program as that of an IIT? It is very wrong to do your curriculum design based on IIT curriculum. Okay, that is the first thing. So the PSOs should suitably adjusted to your the kind of environment that you have. It is not any prestigious thing to say that my curriculum is like IIT curriculum. No. If you are like IITs, what you should be imitating is your examination paper is similar to that of IIT? Then we can say you are like IIT. Okay. I don't know. If there is any further clarification required, please ask. If end of chapter problems address leads to PO1, then how CO will be addressed to PO1 if the course is a pure theory from mechanical engineering disciplines? Also, please explain how CO will be addressed PO1 if the course is from industrial management, technical English, first year academics, which again is a pure theory. See, incidentally, the POs written by NBA are of very tall order. First of all, I have explained during the course that none of our engineering programs, including that of IITs, they address complex engineering problems. And even if you look at remove the word complex, even if you look at engineering problems, if you take any program from any institute, the number of true engineering courses out of 35 to 40 courses will not be more than 6 to 7. Okay. So to that extent, leave alone complex engineering, we are not even addressing predominantly engineering problems. What is it that we are doing? We are learning mathematics, physics, chemistry, and then plenty of engineering science courses. Engineering science courses do not necessarily address engineering problems. It is almost like, let's say, applied physics. So, if you take mechanical engineering, for example, if you take fluid mechanics, I cannot call it as engineering course. It is engineering science course. So like that, if you look at, there are very small number of engineering courses. So we are already making a concession. We first step down from complexity, complex engineering problems. And predominantly, we are looking at engineering science courses, or science courses, or mathematics courses. And then we are addressing predominantly like your end of the chapter problems. So to that extent, if you want to quantitatively measure, at best, we are doing PO1 maybe 30%. Unless the PO1 is reworded, we will not be really true to that particular outcome. Okay. Now coming to same thing is about industrial management. Industrial management is really addressing slightly more an engineering situation with a larger what do you call canvas. Okay, so to that extent, PO1 is applicable to industrial management, no problem. Whereas technical English, if you take, okay, don't address PO1. There is down below, you have PO8, PO9, communication. So it addresses that particular communication PO. And then you're also talking about the last one, PO12, is related to lifelong learning. English can also address that. The course can be designed in such a way that you're addressing PO12, and then you're addressing the PO related to communication, and you're addressing the PO related to teamwork, because you can organize some group exercises in technical English as well. In fact, there is no problem of addressing some of the POs to technical English. Any other query, please? IO, process centric. I'm not very clear what IO is. What is the difference between CO, LO, and IO? CO is course outcome. You're very clear. That means you're looking at one single course and writing outcomes for that. LO is learning outcome, is a much broader one. In the sense, it is not specific to one course. So learning outcome, you can use it as a broader one, like what are the learning outcomes of undergraduate program in mechanical engineering? I can write. For example, what are the learning outcomes in our current NBA context? They are POs and PSOs. IO, if it is instructional outcome, it will be the same as CO, but I'm not very clear. Because many people, for example, right across USA, I've seen some of the universities, they keep using the word LO only, learning outcomes, at the program level, at the course level. They use the same word. But that is their convention. Here, we followed at the course level, we are calling it course outcomes. And at the program level, we are calling them as program. And the outcome is always student-centric. It is always written from the student perspective, what the student should be able to do. Okay, I hope that makes it clear. Is it mandatory that each CO must map with at least one PSO? If yes, why, and what if not? Because your core courses, your PSO, PSOs together, 2 to 4 that you write, should represent the entire core courses of your program. Okay? In fact, in a curriculum design, you start with POs and PSOs. First write them, not subsequently. And then the entire curriculum need to follow from that, though we are doing the reverse. So to that extent, core courses will come from PSOs. PSOs as well as POs. For example, one PO 6 is related to ethics, or PO 7 is related to ethics. I can have one ethics course. For example, PO 11 is related to finance and project management. Okay, I can have a course for that. So to that extent, for every course we are writing the COs. Okay, so when you do that, there cannot be a course that is not related to PSO. That means it has no business to be as a part of the program at all. Because the courses have to technically emerge from PSOs. When they emerge from that, obviously, CO should map to one of the PSOs. And if you, in the engineering area, There are exceptions, but predominantly what we see is one course, any course that you take will map to one PSO. If you write well, very rarely it maps to 2 or 3 PSOs. But I've seen in other programs like BSc, other programs where one CO, they found a reason why it should map to more than one PSO. But if you write properly, each is a course will always map to one PSO. Any other thing, please? There are a few people present. You can ask question. Let me look at the chat. Somebody has doubt about POs and PSOs. Yes, Sudha. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Hello. Am I audible, sir?
Sorry. I have unmuted. Yes, you're audible, please.
Sir, I have a query.
Yes.
Like in the quiz number 4, there was one question.
Yes.
The CO draw the profile of the CAM for a desired follower motion addresses these two knowledge categories. The correct answer is said to be procedural, criteria, and specifications. Sir, conceptual should also be included as the answer, because unless and until we have a concept, how it can be how the motion can be drawn.
Madam, can you please mention the question number, please?
Question number 7.
Okay.
Okay, if Sudha can look at that, then we will. Okay, before Sudha can locate that, there is this query. While it is clear that programs even at IITs fail to achieve outcomes set by NBA, how can it be expected that smaller colleges attempt to achieve that with far less resources? See, that cannot be the reason for first of all, IITs fail, and how can we do that? So let us get rid of this. That is not the approach. See, for the first time in the country, we have a framework for doing anything at higher education level. First time. And this is expressed as POs, PSOs, and then as COs. So every teacher can plan. Of course, his academic freedom is not at all curtailed. How you want to do that? Because you have to adapt to the local condition, namely the kind of students you have, the kind of resources you have. Fortunately, they are not calling the BTech from IIT is a different degree compared to the BE that is offered by a kind of a rural college. Fortunately, we are not doing that. Everybody gets the same label as BE. They're given the same chance. But we all recognize that the can be alike. And coming to IITs, first of all, they are not officially required to fall in line with respect to the accreditation. There are other reasons for it. Let's not get into an argument over it. Why shouldn't IIT program be accredited? Yes, every program has to be accredited. They have reached up to NITs, and still we are in the process of learning. The entire country, when you try to do that, this outcome-based education at the country level, it's not easy. You have something like 4,000 engineering institutions in the country. How can all of them be equal? And their location, the resources, the students, they're all different. So everybody is trying to fall in line. It will take some time because it's a system with huge inertia. And if you compare this, NAC will be still more difficult. If you have 4,000 colleges here, there are 40,000 colleges that offer BA, BSc kind of programs. And imagine trying to do the same thing at that kind of national level. And first of all, one of the main problem is faculty mentally do not consider all this necessary. They consider everything is imposed on them. It is unnecessary thing. After all, we have been doing something. What is the big deal that is happening now by doing that? A process is presented to you. If you follow this, you can facilitate your students to learn better. You don't want to follow, obviously, nothing will happen. Then what remains is only a lot of clerical activity of putting numbers from here to there and producing reports. So it is all in the hands of faculty. How do I make the best use of what is presented to us? Now, till now, if you look at in education, there is another problem. There is no standardization of the language at all that we use. Typically, any of the words that we use, for example, if you for solving a problem in the examination, you say, analyze such and such a circuit, evaluate this mechanism. Okay, then you say solve. So what is happening is you are using the word analyze, evaluate, and solve to mean the same thing. They're not the same. They're three different words. Their scope is different. Like that, what happens, every teacher will use same word to mean different things in different contexts, different words to mean the same thing. How can a proper conversation take place between even the teachers? When I'm not very clear about the words that I'm using, how do I know the other person is understood properly in the same way that I want him to understand? So there is one problem with field of education. There is no standardization of the language. At least here, there is some clarity. Okay, you have outcomes, they're defined, and how do you plan? There is an entire process is presented to you. Academic decisions completely remain with the teachers. Okay, so you achieve your outcomes. So don't compare with IITs. You write your outcomes. Still, the student is getting the same BE degree officially. So you try to attain first say what your students need to attain and make sure that they attain them, to what extent they've attained. Okay? So it is not, let us not worry about why IIT should not be subjected to accreditation. It will come later. It will come later. After all, many IIT professors themselves actually are members of all the committees. Okay, the CO draw the profile of the CAM for desired follower motion. So please look at it in the same, just the statement. This CO, yes, the concepts about what is the CAM and what is the profile, they're all addressed in the earlier thing. Now, if you look at, it's not a CO, right? Okay, can be CBO also. So if you look at draw is procedural. Okay. CAM for a desired follower motion. That means the follower motion is given as a set of specifications. That's all. Drawing is procedural and followed follower motion, how it is specified, is
Sir, but does it not involve concept?
involves, it implies, but
Yeah.
as CBO is concerned, it is directly addressing these two knowledge categories. It will also involve factual as well. Is it required to map a remember level CBO to PO? If CBO is merely remember, like that's what most of the time we do. We ask the students to reproduce definitions, statements, and so on. But that doesn't, how do you map a CBO to PO? You have to first pick a PO. Okay, there are 12 POs. Then I take my CBO. I'm trying to see to what PO it is mapping. So look at the definition of a statement related to every PO. And if you look at a statement, very PO1, what does it say? Solve complex engineering problems, applying the knowledge of mathematics, sciences, engineering sciences, and engineering fundamental. So you look at the same, and it is only one step towards that. If you are completely focusing on remember, the knowledge to remembered, or what we call the definitions, they're all necessary, no doubt about that. But it doesn't completely allow you to attain any of the POs. Maybe you can say 0.1%, or maybe, okay, 5% of PO. But as we do not have that kind of percentages of PO, we are only talking about strength of addressing PO as 1, 2, 3. And if it is less than 5%, we are calling it is not addressing the PO.
आत्ताच झाली ना, चालू आहे ना exam? नाही.
We are affiliated college, university has defined CBOs. Can we define our own CBOs to improve quality of learning? The affiliated college concept does permit that, because you are the one who is trying to teach the students, but I cannot go beyond the scope of the syllabus that is given to us. The same syllabus, I can reword my CBOs to improve the quality of learning. I don't think any committee will object to it. Many times the CBOs written by the university means the boards of studies are not necessarily the best. So you write your own CBOs, but do it with the knowledge of the department. You have discussions. For example, one thing should be remembered is core courses, strictly speaking, are the responsibility of the entire department. No single faculty member has the authority to completely alter the the core course. Core course are the responsibility of the department. If any changes are to be done, it should be done through discussion at the department level. Because there are interdependencies of the courses. I cannot suddenly remove one portion and say put something else in the place. Then the other course will suffer. Yes, you can write your better CBOs if you consider. Okay, if there are no further questions, thank you very much for participation and sending a lot of questions. I hope the answers made some difference. And then thank you and good luck for your exams.
Thank you, sir.